My name's Linda Aaron. I use the pronouns she, her. I'm Williams class of 1985, and we are here at the Natural History Museum of Utah in Salt Lake City. So I consider myself to have one of the best jobs out there. I am the Youth Development Programs Manager here at the museum, and youth development programs are programs that work with young people with focus on assets, with a focus on strengths and helping them understand the possibilities that are there for them. Not a deficit model like let's try to help these kids that are so underserved, but what can we how can we build upon kids' strengths and how can we make them strong in their communities. So there's 2 teen programs here at the Natural History Museum: Youth Teaching Youth and Teen Explainers. I've been here for 17 years, which is awesome. And the Youth Teaching Youth program, predated me. It has partnered with the same middle school program, the whole duration of the program. And it is a program that's on the city's west side, a neighborhood that is, very diverse, low income, and it's one of the sort of best diversity efforts that the museum has that we need to build on, but it's a good one.
Thank you for sharing that. It sounds very exciting and quite the impact in terms of what that has in the local community. If I may ask, what sort of led to your path professionally into finding this role and why?
Yeah, so education has been, what I've done my whole career. And I got a master's after Williams in education, and I've taught, and I've also done educational research. Then we moved back, so I grew up in Salt Lake City, went to Williams, stayed back in the Boston area for 5-6 years after, I guess, and then all of a sudden wanted to come back to Salt Lake, which surprised me, but it was a really good choice. And so here, I'm involved in education all the time. Like I'm on the community councils when my kids were little at school, registrar at their preschool. And so I was looking for a job once they were in elementary school, and saw this job at the museum. So I didn't realize informal education was a thing. That wasn't something I was aware of, and it's great. I have all the parts that I love about education in terms of creating curriculum, teaching, working with kids, but I'm not doing that constantly. I have a great mix. Like I'm with high schoolers, I'm with middle schoolers, I'm in 4th grades. I get to meet with teachers. I get to work with museum staff members. And then there's all these great side benefits about working for a museum. I've been able to go on, do field work with the paleontologists and the mammalogists, and that's great because you can get actually to talk to the 4th graders and be like, yeah, that was me, when we were digging up those bones in southern Utah, and I had no idea really how heavy those things are. And those paleontologists, they're running up and down these slopes with chainsaws on their back. And so as an educator at a museum, you get to experience a wide variety of things, which is great. But I'm really fortunate in that my job allows me to have a huge degree of community involvement and to expand my view of community much more, than when I lived here. I'm really lucky. I have a job that allows me to, have impact on young people. The kids that I work with in Youth Teaching Youth, almost all will be 1st-generation college students. I get to take them, hiking in national parks, and most of them have never been outside of the city before. And then I just know a lot more. Salt Lake City could look very homogenous to some people, who still live on the east side and everybody looks the same, and but I understand a lot more about my community now. And that's really cool. Last night there was this opening of a new park in Glendale, which is the neighborhood where all my kids are from, and they had brought back to the surface 3 creeks, that come down from the mountains and feed into the Jordan River. And so this park is called 3 Creeks Confluence. And they had, put it up in this thing that had been, like a lot with a burned out house and just trash. And now it's this gorgeous gem. And there were all these people from the community, they were like letting people take canoe rides and kayak rides. And they had, people doing, spoken word poetry. And, and I'm glad that I just feel that I'm in a much broader community now. So that's exciting.
Thank you for sharing. That sounds like a source of also feeding and nourishing the soul in many ways.
It's true.
The way you talk about it and the way I feel your energy in many ways right now.
When I feel fortunate to have a job that does feed me like that.
I know you started alluding prior to our interview, in many ways in this project, we don't want to just focus on the highs. So everyone's lives, we know that all of our lives after Williams and even before Williams, for many people have their downs and challenges. And I was curious if you're comfortable sharing any specific challenges with the wider Williams community and how you persevere and what have you learned from those?
Yeah, definitely. And this is experienced just because 1 in 8 women will have breast cancer. So I'm sure that there are plenty of alums out there who have also dealt with this challenge. But I was diagnosed with breast cancer and had surgery 5 years ago. I just passed my 5-year mark, so that's like a really good mark. Yeah, when you pass 5 years, it's good. And it was an incredible challenge, but like I learned so much about myself too. People talk about like, oh, you learn what's really important, but you really do. All of a sudden what you're going to prioritize, and you get to the point where you're like, yeah, life is possibly short and I'm going to spend my time doing certain things, and maybe there's people that I'm not really going to spend a lot of energy on because they're not uplifting, and I want to spend time on people that are uplifting. It was amazing. One of my Williams College roommates had breast cancer just like a year, 15 months before I did. And so she was such a support. All my college roommates were huge supports, but Karen had been through the same things that I had, and we could ask about surgery and drains and chemotherapy and all those things, being bald, and so that was so important to me. And then another thing that I learned was that I was braver than I thought I was, and you don't even sort of realize, like when you're just going through it, you're just like, oh, I'm just taking this on. I'm just doing things one day at a time. And then people around you give you feedback about how impressed they are with how brave you are. And that was cool. So it's definitely made me feel sort of empowered to take on some challenges in the future.
Thank you for sharing such an intimate detail and giving it voice through this platform. I think you just mentioned that there are times in these journeys of our lives that we feel alone, and hearing someone else say that within any sort of the communities that we're connected to is impactful. We hope it is impactful for anyone listening and viewing this interview. So again, I know you mentioned a little bit of some of the things that it put into perspective for you and what you prioritize. Are there specific aspects that you are comfortable sharing in terms of what you sort of learned to prioritize in that stage?
Family has always been my highest priority. This definitely confirmed that. I had just the best support, from my own family. My mother and sister flew back when I had surgery and, stayed and took care of me for a while. It was also interesting. I got married at the same time. So when we when I got diagnosed with breast cancer, we had been planning on, getting married late June, and at first we were trying to think about like how we could sort of fit this all in. And then this was another thing that was empowering to me was I wanted to take control of, what was happening to me and what was, my care. And then I realized I don't want to be, we got married at our summer cottage in Wisconsin. It was just, his kids, my parents, my sister. And I didn't want to be there having just, been out of surgery. And so I talked to my surgeon and I said, would it be okay if we actually just waited like 1 month to do this, not even a month? And she said, well, let me, talk to the rest of the group. And she came back and she said, yeah, that'd be okay. And, I was just sort of proud of myself for even thinking about asking that, and so then that, we took that into treatment too. Like we didn't just assume that I would do chemo. We really asked, about a lot of statistics, and we really wanted to know the data, and so we could make a careful decision. We ended up doing it, but to be able to feel in control as much as you can in your own life. That was another lesson to me that was really good. And having this new husband at the same time, even though we got married and then 2 days later I was in surgery, he was a tremendous support, and all his kids were a tremendous support. Yeah, so I think I wanted to get away. I always tell the high school students that I work with, college is like the best time to try another part of the country because it's all set up for you. You don't have to find a place to live. I loved eating in the dining halls. I loved everything about it. Meeting the people there was so great. And it's people are gonna laugh if I'm like, oh, I really was exposed to a lot of diverse people at Williams, because a lot of people would say that's not true about Williams. But coming from little white bread Salt Lake City in 1980, I didn't have Black friends. And being able to be at a college where people were from all different places, and, I had, Black people in my freshman entry, and was suddenly close friends with people that just had very different perspectives from what I did. And that was the beginning of, I just think, such a learning experience, and being able to just understand people better, wanting to understand other people's lived experiences, and learning from other people's lived experiences. So that was something that I definitely have taken from Williams. The outdoors. So being in the natural world makes me so happy. And that's a huge draw in Utah. We got the mountains up here. You can just be in Red Rock in no time at all. And being outdoors makes me so happy. I also have this special, personal place, a lake in Wisconsin that I've gone to every year since I was born. It was a cottage that my grandfather built with his father, so it's been in the family over 100 years. And so again, just as a child, we grew up just being outdoors all the time. So that's something that brings me huge joy. And then being with my family, being with people who I'm close to, is such an important part of my identity, is such an important part of my happiness. I have the two most awesome kids. One is a doctor in the Navy, and one is a college soccer coach. He just barely took a new job at Caltech, so now he's closer, which is exciting. And my parents are still living, which is really great. And so family is important. And then I married into this whole new family, which was really exciting too, because all of a sudden I get a daughter. And I married into grandkids, which took the pressure off of my boys that they were happy about. So that's what brings me happiness. It's big. It would be to my parents, my mother and father, just for giving me the greatest start in life, making me feel, unconditionally loved and supported, and encouraged. Just feel that that's what parents should do, but not everybody has that. And so lucky to have that. My parents, and my parents and my grandparents were the ones who made it possible for me to go to Williams, by saving the money so that I could go to school, and they've just continued to support us in so many ways. Amazing grandparents to my two children. They've taken us on, as a family, we went to London together, we went to Paris and Rome together, and they're really amazing role models too, as a marriage and as people. Both of them are educators. I know that's why I decided to become an educator. So they've had the biggest impact on my life and making me who I am.
On that statement and that beautiful sort of reflection, I want to thank you for sharing this snippet of your story. And obviously, a half hour is not enough to learn about someone, but we hope it gives a glimpse and perhaps a platform to other voices in hearing your story through this lens.
Okay, I hope so.
We're very grateful for your time. Are there any last pieces of any advice or anything that you'd like to share with the wider alumni or even current student community at Williams?
I guess just we're all dealing with a lot right now out of the pandemic, the election, but just the importance of being willing to listen to others and being open-minded to the, not everybody has your life and not everybody has your background, and your paradigm does not equal other people's paradigms. And it's really important to be able to be open to others' experiences and learn from